I'm Mark Flyguy, and this is Stories in Space. This comet is massive when you compare it to the size of Los Angeles. Thank you, amazing astronomy. This comet was also the first ever to be probed by humans. In 2004, the European Space Agency conducted the first ever mission to design a spacecraft that will orbit and land on a moving comet. There was a spacecraft, Rosetta, known as an orbiter, and the actual probe itself, Philae, known as a lander. The idea was to have Rosetta join orbit with the comet 67P on its own orbit around our sun. Then as it got close, it was to drop off the probe Philae. Twice during the orbiter's journey from Earth, it almost turned into a 1.4 billion euro crash test. The first instance was when Rosetta had a risky flyby of Mars in 2007. It came within 155 miles or 250 kilometers of the red planet. Fortunately, the orbiter did not crash and actually got some pretty breathtaking photos. The second time it almost crashed was in 2009, when it had another flyby of not a planet, but yet another asteroid named 21 Luida. This one was not as close as the Mars encounter, only coming within 1900 miles, which is also 3,000 kilometers, but it's still worth mentioning. Here's some of the photos it took. After these close encounters, the time was now 2011. Rosetta went into hibernation as it was passing by Jupiter, because there would have been no solar energy to power the vehicle, so hibernation was the only solution. 3 years later, in what was now January of 2014, Rosetta gave a signal to Earth that it was alive and well. In August of 2014, the orbiter had now reached its destination, somewhat. The landing craft had to identify an area to drop off Philae. It is now September of 2014, and they finally find a spot to land. November of 2014 comes by, and ESA learns that Philae's thrusters are not working properly to land on the comet, so they made the bold decision to have the probe harpoon the comet instead to secure itself. Philae begins its 7-hour descent at 1 meter per second towards the comet. Right before impact, there was complete silence and darkness, not knowing the outcome. 30 minutes later, ESA receives a signal, confirming Philae's touchdown. Many images and lots of data were collected, marking humanity's first probe to successfully land on a moving comet. However, our story is not over yet. While Philae was successful in its purpose, Rosetta still had its own mission to carry out. Later on in the year, it was deduced that the comet was starting to drift off beyond the orbit of Jupiter. So on September 30th of 2016, ESA decided to send off Rosetta with a bang, literally a full-on collision course with the comet. On its descent into the flying rock, the orbiter studied the comet's gas, dust, and plasma environment and took tons of photos. After a little while, confirmation of Rosetta's impact was confirmed, ending not only one of ESA's most successful missions, but one of that of astronomy as a whole.